the Alex Jones Broadcasting Network.
No one's gonna take me alive. The time has come.
All right, we are 30 minutes into this worldwide broadcast, and I still haven't gotten into my top story. I'm going to give the phone number out to get your take on this. We're going to take calls throughout the rest of the show, interspersed with other important news as we go in and out of break. And I'll give the number out in just a moment. I want your take on it, but please give us your take in about a minute or less because I want to go to a lot of people here today. I have been interviewing Ron Paul, Congressman Ron Paul, for 17 years since I first got on radio and TV. Since 1995. I remember when he was first running for the second time for the House. He was there for 2 years and then got thrown out a decade before. And nobody knew who Ron Paul was, but constitutionalist. And Ron Paul talked about the New World Order, world government, fractional reserve banking, the private Federal Reserve. And he was our one guy in Congress. He was Dr. No, who voted against all this tyranny, who understood it. Ron Paul knows everything about the New World Order. Agenda 21, global governance, all of it. And I understand the delegate process. I understand the political process pretty good. I've been to the Democratic National Convention. I've been to the Republican National Convention. I've studied the electoral process. Don't claim to be a master expert of it, but I've got a good handle on it. I'm in the 1% of people informed about political systems. Sadly, that isn't saying much. The general public's so ignorant. And the system knows that and uses that to its advantage, the special interests that have rolled in. But I've seen a lot of things the last 6 months or so that I hope I was wrong about with the Paul campaign. They didn't fight when Iowa and Maine were stolen from them. I'm not going to go through this whole laundry list. They started backing off, criticizing the New World Order, global governance, really going at the heart. No longer was it abolish the Fed. It was, well, we want to audit it. Ron Paul was just a focal point of people that are awake and really know what's happening. People who are informed, who know that the globalists said they'd implode Europe through derivatives and then announce a Bank of the World and start carbon taxes and all these new taxes. It's now happening. So right at the moment, we're proven right. Right at the moment, the mainstream media says Ron Paul can't win as a self-fulfilling prophecy and played all those dirty tricks, and Romney did all those dirty tricks. I started noticing about 4, 5, 6 months ago that people were saying, look at him, softball Romney. Look at Paul, leave Romney alone. Look at these softball ads he ran once we pointed it out. And I said, I sure hope that isn't the case. And we had Rand Paul on a few months ago, just out of the blue. They said, yeah, you want to have Senator on? We hadn't even really been contacting him. We've been trying to get Paul on. And Paul came on and said, well, it would be a great honor if I was considered for vice president. And I understand it's an honor for you as a gentleman, as a nice guy, but Mitt Romney, we're going to play a video here in a moment. Mitt Romney did write Obamacare. I'm going to play clips of him admitting that he created it. Mitt Romney has supported abortion for 20 plus years and just lately says he's against it. Mitt Romney is for banning all semi-auto handguns and rifles. I mean, I'm sorry, he voted for that. Mitt Romney works for the very same global banks that don't create jobs, but that come in and get banker bailouts and wreck companies. I mean, I happen to know too much about him. He admits he would dress up like a policeman and do fake arrests. That's a serious crime, but then in California, in his $10 million house, one of his houses, if the neighbor's smoking pot, he calls the cops on him when it's legal there. Again, it's all about his fake act that he's a good guy when he's a total deceptive globalist. I mean, hey, you're for abortion, buddy? Oh yeah, that's real Christian. Oh, that's you want to tell somebody about marijuana they're smoking, but you're saying let's kill some babies today? Again, Mitt Romney looks and acts like a charming psychopath, the silver tongue. I mean, he's all this non-threatening cover. Just like Warren Buffett's always posing with an ice cream cone. No, I'm a nice old man. It's a total cover. And I know too much about Mitt Romney. And so that's why when I saw Rand Paul come out and, I mean, if he came out and said, well, I don't like a lot of what Romney stands for, the carbon taxes, the Obamacare, a lot of it. But we need to try to influence him. And if they would have addressed in a newscast or something like that to people and had a debate with the constitutionalists that put these guys on the map. I mean, I was the first guy to get Rand Paul on and say run for office, and got him the first money, and he admitted it on air, and his first staff that helped him when nobody thought he could win were my listeners from Texas and people that moved up there. I mean, I've had dinner with some of his top staffers. This is on record. And all the dirty tricks the Republicans did in the primary 2 years ago to beat him, and the lies and the big bank money, that now to see him come out, I mean, imagine if I'd have told you a year ago, Rand Paul will endorse Mitt Romney, you would have told me I was a Martian. And rightfully so. I could never have imagined that. But I've seen Rand Paul on more and more things, up there with all those senators, up there in that system, believing that he's going to change things from the inside by compromising. All we ever do is compromise. The system never compromises. The system's alien to our republic. The system is globalist. We're talking about tens of trillions of dollars a year in weapons and no-bid contracts and banker bailouts. Our country's in trouble. Did George Washington and Thomas Jefferson compromise? No, they didn't, because you can't compromise with total tyranny. Now, about 95% of the commenters or more, it's actually more like 97% on our YouTube videos, on Infowars.com, they agree with us. And the Republican establishment at Daily Caller and a bunch of other places came out and, said, eat some more paint chips, Alex Jones, how dare you not like Ron Paul? This is the smart thing to do. That's all we ever hear is it's a smart thing to do. No, the smart thing to do is run third party and inject more ideas and build a true movement. I mean, I've also seen the Paul outfit, endorsing people that supported property taxes in Texas, like Cruz. And I get the other candidates even worse, but I mean, okay, you got a 10-pound pile of dog, you got an 8-pound pile, and they're like, hey, sit down to dinner and eat one. This is a smaller pile. Hey, I'll go hungry, okay? I'm going to stop accepting garbage. If there's two restaurants on the corner and both of them got cockroaches the size of chihuahuas, and you're like, hey, but this one has less cockroach poop in the soup, I'm not eating in either one of them. We got to this point of being a joke and a tyranny and the biggest, most corrupt government in the world, and the biggest prison population, and the troops openly growing opium in Afghanistan through compromise. And I'm done. I mean, I could really lay into the polls right now. I mean, I've got people in both their campaigns, both their offices, family members. I mean, I'm talking about people so close, they came out of the same mama to Ron Paul, okay? Who had 5 months ago were freaking out behind the scenes about what's going on. I know all of it. I know about the list of Ron Paul supporters being given to the Republican Party for fundraising. I know about all of it, Jesse Benton, every stinking bit of it. And again, it makes me want to throw up. You know what? I had some guests coming on today to talk about this, and I actually canceled and moved to later because I wanted to think about this more. And that's why I didn't even talk about the first 30 minutes because as bad as a thing Rand Paul and Ron Paul have done, their voting records are still very, very good. They are good people, I know, who care about freedom. But they got a bunch of politicos working for them, and they are getting too close to this, and they're thinking too much about Rand and Ron Paul's dynasty. The dynasty isn't handing everything to your son, who then becomes an establishment rhino. It's about defeating the New World Order. Our country's caving in on itself. I'm seeing less attacks on the New World Order, less attacks on CIA drug dealing. In fact, I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing Ron Paul get milquetoast and they put the head delegate in the hospital in Louisiana when they wouldn't even let them have their delegates and converted them to Romney when they did belong to Paul as votes. They put the guy in the hospital, and Ron Paul came out and said, you know what, be respectful. So I'm starting to rant. I'm going to give the number out. I want your take on this. Here is the Sunday number. If you want to join us, and we will give it out. It's 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. I want to hear your take on this. Should we kneel to Mitt Romney?